At the Australian Open, the buzz around Alex Eala was not subtle. It was the kind of electricity that wraps around a stadium before anyone even hits a ball. Fans were circling the grounds just trying to squeeze in, and that alone should have told tournament organizers they were not dealing with an ordinary qualifier. Jessica Pegula saw those lines, heard those stories, and decided this was not just crowd noise but a signal the WTA needed to take seriously. Pegula did not swing a racket when she spoke up. She swung at the institution, calling out decisions that felt tone-deaf in a moment demanding vision. Because when thousands of supporters travel from the Philippines and across Asia to watch one player, that is not coincidence, that is movement. Alex Eala has become more than a young talent. With a clean backhand and junior titles, she represents possibility for an entire region. For a country that has never had a tennis superstar at this level, her rise feels historic, almost cinematic in scale. The WTA has long talked about expanding into emerging markets, especially in Asia, where viewership and sponsorship potential are enormous. Yet when Eala generated what some called the best crowd atmosphere in Australian Open history, she was placed on a smaller court. Pegula labeled it disrespect, and in the strategic language of professional sports, that word carries institutional implications. Court assignments are not random. They are public declarations of hierarchy, of who the tour believes deserves prime real estate. You do not accidentally put your biggest draw in a space that cannot physically contain her audience. Fans waited in long lines, some never even entering the venue despite crossing oceans to support their national hero. That is not just unfortunate logistics, that is a missed branding opportunity of global proportions. From a commercial standpoint, Eala's following represents access to millions of potential viewers in Southeast Asia. The Philippines alone has over 100 million people, many of whom are newly invested in professional tennis because of her. Add in neighboring countries and the diaspora community, and you are looking at a rapidly expanding fan economy. Pegula's frustration was not emotional theatrics, it sounded like strategic concern over squandered growth. Novak Djokovic then entered the conversation, and that shifted the tone from locker room chatter to institutional critique. When a legend publicly praises Eala as the greatest player her country has produced, that endorsement carries diplomatic weight. Djokovic also suggested scheduling and management decisions contributed to the challenges she faced during the tournament. Suddenly, this was no longer fan outrage on social media, it was elite players questioning governance. And the scheduling debate was only part of the larger narrative forming around Eala's journey. During qualifying, she struck a ball clearly inside the line, with a visible mark confirming the call. Instead of awarding her the point, officials ordered a replay, a move that raised eyebrows among observers. In professional tennis, replaying a point under those circumstances is not routine, and deviations invite scrutiny. Eala approached the chair umpire calmly and firmly, stating she understood what was happening. That moment defined her composure, showing mental resilience that belied her age. She returned to the court and ultimately won the match, advancing all the way to the final round of qualifying. That is the profile of a competitor who thrives under pressure rather than wilts beneath it. Then came the match against Iga Swiatek, one of the most dominant players on tour in recent years. For a young athlete to share a stage with a multiple Grand Slam champion is achievement enough. Yet, during a pivotal stretch of that contest, an official confronted Eala about items in her backpack. The timing disrupted her rhythm and invited questions about consistency and officiating standards. One isolated incident might be dismissed, but patterns change perception quickly. Scheduling limitations, controversial calls, mid-match interruptions. Together they shaped a narrative of imbalance. In sports politics, perception often outweighs technical explanation. The WTA might argue that rankings and broadcast contracts dictate court assignments. That may be true, but adaptability is part of strategic leadership. When a new star generates unprecedented demand, institutions are expected to pivot. History provides precedent, particularly in how the tour embraced Li Na during her rise in China. Li Na unlocked massive commercial partnerships and television growth, transforming tennis economics in Asia. Eala has the potential to spark a similar wave in Southeast Asia, perhaps even broader in digital reach. Social media engagement around her matches demonstrates a younger, globally connected audience. That demographic shift is precisely what every sports organization claims to pursue. By not elevating her platform in real time, the tour risked signaling hesitation. Pegula's comments suggested that players themselves see the opportunity clearly. Athletes understand that today's breakout star can reshape revenue models tomorrow. Djokovic's support reinforced that this conversation extends beyond one tournament draw sheet. It challenges how the WTA identifies and nurtures transformative talent in a rapidly evolving global market. Because make no mistake, Alex Eala is not just another promising name buried in a long qualifying list. She is a strategic inflection point. When fans from Manila to Melbourne flood your venue, they are not just buying tickets, they are buying into a future. And when they cannot even get inside the court to see her play, that future suddenly feels mishandled. Pegula's critique lands harder because she herself is a top-tier player who understands exactly how tournament politics operate. She knows court placement influences media exposure, which influences sponsorship leverage, which influences long-term career trajectory. Prime court equals prime camera angles, larger crowds, louder atmospheres, and greater narrative momentum. Smaller courts mean limited seating, reduced broadcast priority, and a quieter storyline. In modern tennis, visibility is power, and power translates directly into commercial gravity. The WTA has publicly emphasized global inclusivity, yet moments like this test whether rhetoric aligns with execution. If you claim to want emerging markets, you cannot sideline the athlete who activates them. Eala's rise is organic, driven by grassroots pride and digital amplification rather than manufactured hype. That authenticity makes her brand even more valuable in an era where audiences can sense artificial promotion instantly. Compare this to past eras when young stars like Maria Sharapova were quickly elevated to marquee courts once momentum built. The tours understood then that spectacle fuels expansion, and expansion fuels survival. With Eala, the spectacle was present, but the institutional response appeared cautious. Caution in sports governance often stems from hierarchy, from protecting established order, yet tennis history shows that breakthroughs rarely wait politely for administrative comfort. When Serena Williams burst onto the scene, visibility followed rapidly because demand forced adaptation. Markets dictate strategy more ruthlessly than committees ever can. Southeast Asia represents one of the fastest-growing digital consumption regions in the world. Streaming numbers, merchandise sales, and social engagement from Filipino fans illustrate measurable momentum. Sponsors take note when a player trends across multiple time zones simultaneously. Broadcast partners notice when viewership spikes during specific match windows. These are not abstract metrics, they are negotiation tools. By limiting Eala's exposure during peak interest, the WTA limited its own bargaining leverage. Pegula's frustration reads less like personal grievance and more like strategic alarm. She essentially asked, "Why are we not maximizing this?" Djokovic's support elevated the discourse from operational critique to philosophical debate about fairness. Because fairness in sport is not just about officiating calls, it is about equitable opportunity. The replayed point during qualifying may have been procedural, but it added to a growing cloud. The backpack interruption may have had technical justification, but timing is everything in elite competition. In politics and in sport, timing determines narrative interpretation. When disruptions repeatedly affect the same emerging star, public trust begins to wobble. And trust is the backbone of professional sports governance. Eala's composure through each incident strengthened her image rather than diminished it. She demonstrated calm defiance, the kind that builds loyal fan communities. Every perceived slight became fuel for a larger storyline of resilience. That narrative arc is powerful, especially for younger audiences seeking representation. The WTA now faces a crossroads that extends beyond one tournament. It can frame Eala as a central figure in its Asian growth strategy, or risk appearing reactive. Strategic leadership would mean proactively placing her on larger courts when demand justifies it. It would involve coordinated marketing campaigns, targeting Southeast Asian broadcasters and sponsors. It would mean recognizing that symbolic gestures like court assignment carry economic consequences. Because symbols in sports often translate into dollars, partnerships, and cultural influence. Pegula and Djokovic have essentially handed the WTA a public relations opportunity wrapped in controversy. The organization can respond defensively or it can pivot decisively. Eala is going to keep improving regardless. That trajectory feels inevitable. The question is whether the institutions surrounding her rise will accelerate or restrain its own potential. Was this merely scheduling miscalculation, or does it reveal a deeper hesitation to redistribute spotlight? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate is bigger than one player. It is about who shapes the future of global tennis.